Hey, everybody. This is Dan Kahn with Kahn Media and Only the Strong Survive podcast. We asked our readers and our followers on LinkedIn if they had questions, and I got a couple of interesting ones, and I thought I would answer one of them today. So, one of our first questions we got was from Allie Palmer, who said, "What got you into your morning routine? How do you stick to it? And how do you think it affects your work life at Kahn? Positives, negatives, motivators, etc." So, Ali, thanks for the question. For those who don't know, and I've actually written about this a little bit on LinkedIn, my morning routine is a little bit insane. I get up very early. I get up any day between 4 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. And I'll typically get up. I bang out anywhere between 10 and 20 emails, and then I go for a run. I usually try to go 5 to 7 miles a day, and then I come back. I do 200 push-ups, and then I do a cold plunge. And then usually by about that time, it's about 8 a.m. and I'll have a large cup of coffee and say goodbye to my kids who go to school. And then at that point, I'll shower and change and either head into the office or hop on a computer and start kind of my Zoom calls for the day. So it is intense. It is a little insane. It is not how I used to live my life. But basically, I've also written on LinkedIn a couple blogs about mental health. And, Mark Andreessen is kind of a well-known guy in tech circles. And if you don't know who he is, he wrote Mosaic, which was the first internet browser, sold that. And then he founded Netscape, which was, again, one of the very first internet browser companies, sold that, and then used the money from building and selling those companies to basically become an institutional investor in the tech community. And he's very, very wealthy and he's very successful. And he has invested in and helped manage some of the biggest companies in the world at this point. And he has a great blog, so I recommend following him. But there's a quote of his that I really relate to. And Mark Andreessen said, as a business founder, you only ever experience two emotions, euphoria and terror. And I find that lack of sleep enhances both. And boy, that's true. I started my business 15 years ago, and there is no middle. It's either euphoria or terror every day. And that really applies to most of the business owners that I know. And I'm in a few different peer networking groups. I'm in a couple of mastermind groups. A lot of my friends in the outdoor and automotive industries own and operate small businesses. And you're either just stoked or absolutely terrified. And in most cases, many businesses operate with credit lines that are secured by maybe your house. A lot of times, like, your personal income is directly tied to the revenue of the company. So you build this thing, and on a good year, you're having a great time and you're thrilled and it's a rush. And on those tough years where cash flow gets tight and payroll gets scary, it is absolutely terrifying. And I've had to try and figure out ways for me personally to manage that emotional roller coaster. I'm not necessarily wired to be the most sort of static person. I tend to have a wide range of emotions, and I'm pretty ADHD. And I kind of decided many years ago, and I've obviously done therapy and other things. And for me personally, SSRIs and stuff like that are not my cup of tea. I like being fully in control and razor sharp in all possible times. And that's no knock against anyone who's on those, by the way. If that helps you, then more power to you. But for me personally, I had to kind of find my own path and figure out, okay, how can I add some stability and clarity to my day every day in a career that is intense and kind of an emotional roller coaster. And so throughout my life, I'm a huge reader. I read a ton. I read typically a book or two a week. And I'm sort of, my personal hero is Teddy Roosevelt. I've read a lot of books about him. I've read some of his books. And he kind of transformed himself mentally and emotionally and physically through physical effort. And he has, he's made some speeches that there's one that's very famous called the Man in the Arena. Brene Brown, who's kind of the self-help guru, her whole kind of shtick borrows from him and from that segment of that speech. But the Man in the Arena speech is actually just a segment of a bigger speech called The Strenuous Life, and it's really long, but it's well worth the read. And you can find it online. And in it, he talks about how the best way to calm and focus the mind is to exhaust the body. So for me, that is why I do what I do, because I find that if I start my day doing something that is exhaustive and hard, I can clear my head. So that, and I mean, I wish I didn't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I wish I could get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and go do all those things and run and push-ups and cold plunges and still have time to kind of do my day. I just have too much going on. So it's really a practical thing. I don't love getting up at 4 a.m. I've just trained myself to do that. Because I have 3 young kids and I've got a wife who deserves my attention as well. And I'm running 3 businesses, and I just don't have the time in the day to get it all done if I get up later. So I get up super early and then I hit it really hard because I want to do the hard thing. And typically, like most people in business today, my days are like back-to-back Zoom calls and client phone calls and talking to people in the media and answering emails and it's just chaos, and it's electronics and stuff and screens in my face all day. And there is no time in all of that to think and to ideate. And so for me, when I'm on that run, it allows me to clear my head. And whether it's that euphoria or the terror, either one, it allows me to kind of balance that. And then typically I just start thinking, and I'm listening to a podcast or I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Those end up giving me ideas. They inspire me. Quite often on my runs, I'll stop and take a bunch of notes because I have ideas from something I was listening to, because it's pushing all the noise out and it lets me focus. And so I think, Ali, to answer your question, I think it's a benefit to me and to the company and to my coworkers, because it allows me to sort of emotionally regulate myself. It allows me to come up with new ideas. I do a lot of my problem solving. I mean, I'm firefighting in the rest of my day. I'm answering emails. I'm putting out fires. I'm talking to someone online or leading a team or giving someone, feedback on a project. That's firefighting. That's different. But if I have bigger, hairier problems where I'm trying to figure out either a new campaign or I'm just trying to figure out a challenge at work, or we have a big problem or we need to do a big pivot, that's that hour or so I spend in the morning working out hard is when I usually end up coming up with all my ideas to try and solve those. And not all those ideas are good ideas, but it does help. And so I like doing the hard thing because then everything else is kind of downhill from there. And the benefit is, hopefully, ideally, I also maybe am a little healthier and feel a little stronger, and maybe it can add a little longevity to my life. So that's why I do it. So that's kind of the negatives. Ali asked for positives and negatives. I'm tired sometimes. Andreessen is right. If you're either euphoric or terrified, being overtired certainly amplifies that. So I probably ought to get more sleep than I do. That's probably the biggest negative. So to kind of close this thing out, I'm going to actually read a quote from that Roosevelt Strenuous Life speech, because I think it applies here. And it's something that I have written on my wall that I really like. And again, this is a Teddy Roosevelt quote. "I wish to preach not the doctrine of ignoble ease, but the doctrine of the strenuous life, the life of toil and effort, of labor and strife, to preach that highest form of success which comes not to the man who desires mere easy peace, but to the man who does not shrink from danger, from hardship, or from bitter toil, and who out of these wins the splendid ultimate triumph." And that's kind of late 19th century language, but my takeaway from that is, in order to really enjoy and cherish a victory, you have to earn it. And the way you earn it is by doing the hard things. And sometimes you have to suffer a little bit. So for me, part of that morning routine is the suffering, because then when you get out of it, you can actually feel a little better about everything else in your day. Hope that helps.